Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half that work week in the rearview mirror. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and we're fired up. You are here with Sam Spiegelman. Will be here in 15 minutes talking recruiting. We're getting into a big time in recruiting where you've got visits that are going to come up throughout the season and, of course, National Signing Day right there at the beginning of December. So we'll kind of set the scene for LSU's fall to come in recruiting with Sam Spiegelman from Rivals. Looking forward to that conversation. It's What If Wednesday. If you got a what if for us, toss it to us in the Body Forward chat. You can also hit me up on Twitter at HuntPalmer88, and we always invite text 225-499-1045. LSU has its number 18. It has its two number 7s. We'll talk about that at the end of the hour. PJ Woodland met with the media yesterday. We'll get into some Saints talk. And J.D. Pickell back in action. We've changed our time with J.D. We were kind of playing musical chairs last year with when we could have J.D., when we couldn't, based on his obligations with his, actual job that he does. So we're going to clear his schedule and make sure things work. And I think it looks like 2:30 every Wednesday we'll talk national college football storylines with J.D., which actually happened to kind of circle around Baton Rouge today. And that is, once again, where we start with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
When we left you yesterday, the Big Ten had voted unanimously not to allow players that had signed professional contracts, had joined professional teams, had declared for professional drafts in the United States to come back and play college athletics. And all we had at that point, when I left you, was a statement from the SEC saying, hey, we don't really want you to do that. And that was kind of all the statement said. There were no penalties put in place, just a declaration from the Southeastern Conference and Commissioner Greg Sankey that, hey, we don't want, quote-unquote, professionals coming back to the college ranks. And so now we've got more. It's 22 hours later than when I last left you, and the SEC did release a vote that was 16-0 and put in place a set of guidelines, rules that you cannot break. Players cannot declare for the NBA draft, the MLB draft, not MLB, NBA, NFL, WNBA. You can certainly declare for the MLB draft as a high schooler and play in college baseball. But no NFL, no NBA, no WNBA, can't do it and come back unless you withdraw. You can't sign a professional contract. You can't be on a roster. You can't work out at practices, okay? They put that in place. And then the question was, well, what are the penalties going to be? And that was what came down earlier today. Wilson Alexander with On 3 reporting that the SEC's professional sports rules, what we're calling this, carries with it, if broken, penalties of 50% season suspension for head coaches. So for football, you're talking about missing 8 games. For baseball, you're talking about missing upwards of 25 games. For basketball, you're talking about missing more than 18 games. SEC voting privileges in business matters are revoked from your university. And how about this? That sport, you play someone we deem to be ineligible, you lose 50% of your annual operating budget from that sport. Those are the punishments. And that suggests a very, very strong aversion to this from the Southeastern Conference. Now, you may come back and counter to me if it's important to you that these LSU commitments come and play, and you want Daquan Wright at tight end, and you want Xavier Harris at defensive tackle. That's important to you. You might push back and say, well, they'll just take you to court. What are you going to do? And the truth be told, 1 to 3 afternoon radio host in Baton Rouge, Hunt Palmer, with no law degree, I don't really know the answer to your rebuttal. Maybe they can be deemed eligible. Maybe they can get a preliminary injunction. And they are deemed eligible in the eyes of the law. It occurs to me that the conference has the ability to enforce some rules somewhere. Right? Some rules somewhere. I've seen schools incur fines for rushing the field or rushing the court. I've seen coaches serve suspensions. I've seen schools put on probation or eliminated, be restricted from competing in postseason play. If you get caught on an FBI wiretap or you get caught with fraudulent educational paths like North Carolina did, if you get caught providing impermissible benefits, I've seen this happen. So surely there is an ability for the conference to do that to schools. They may not be able to walk into the courtroom and demand that that player is ineligible, but they can say he's ineligible according to us, and if you break that rule, you are a voluntary member of this league. We can pop you. I can't claim it with 100% certainty. I can't. I can't do it. I feel comfortable, maybe not confident, comfortable suggesting that would be the case. And we've run round and round in circles on this thing, but this is the new update based on the time I left you last. And so from here, this is where I'd like to go. Is this worth it for LSU? Of course it's worth it for Xavier Harris and Daquan White to take this to court. Of course. Because they're potentially going to make zero from the NFL, potentially get the practice squad limit, and LSU is likely willing to pay them a high six-figure total. I'm not reporting that. That's the going rate for starting level and rotational level veteran players. So, yeah, it's worth it for the players, and the players will pursue it, and their attorneys made that clear yesterday. What about for LSU? Is it worth it to continue to run this out? It goes two paths here. One, on the field, Daquan Wright would be your second tight end. He would catch 30 balls. He would catch 4 touchdowns. He'd be your second tight end. He'd be a fine player. You got Trey'Dez Green. You're okay at tight end. If Trey'Dez Green is hurt, yeah, you'd love to have a backup with that kind of experience. And I understand that he would. It's better to have him on the team than not. But is it a quarterback? No. Is it a first-team All-American? No. Is it a surefire NFL player? Well, we know that's not true because he just got cut. So, a defensive tackle, yeah, I told you earlier this week. If you're able to get a guy that made 55 tackles last year, 9 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and started every game on a college football playoff semifinalist, he's a help to your defensive tackle rotation where you might have true freshmen out there. But, again, is it a quarterback? Is he a first-team All-American? Is he a first-round draft choice? No, he's none of those things. So, is it worth it? Well, to me, it's not worth it to test these penalties for sure. 50% of your operating budget out the window for a rotational defensive tackle and a second-team tight end? No. You have defensive tackles. You've got Deuce Geralds and Richard Anderson and Stephylon Green and Malik Blockton and Dominic McKinley. You have defensive tackles. You want to put Lamar Brown down in there? There's 6. Hadn't even gotten to Deshaun Watson. Like, he's better than some of these guys, but you have them. This is not like Will Wade, who, to my knowledge, and that doesn't mean that it's to his knowledge, to my knowledge, he doesn't even have front court players. You've got a team. You've got a roster. So, no. And the second part of it is, what about the time investment in this? This is what I've been asked a lot. I mean, does LSU really need to spend this much time on it? And my answer to that is, I'm not in the football facility. I'm not monitoring Lane Kiffin's cell phone. I'm not monitoring Charlie Weiss's cell phone. I'm not monitoring Blake Baker's cell phone. I don't know what's going on in the meeting rooms over there. But this is my guess. My guess is they're in there getting ready for Clemson. They're in there practicing. They're in there watching film. They're in there with meetings. They're in there setting their depth chart. They're setting the schedule to recruit in the fall. The attorneys are the ones for these players that are handling this. Keep in mind, LSU's not involved in the lawsuits. LSU's involved in recruiting the players if deemed eligible. So I don't think there's a lot of time being spent over there on these two players. I could be wrong. Lane Kiffin could be in his office spending 3 hours a day and missing an offensive meeting chatting with the legal team for Daquan Wright. He could be. It would surprise me. It would surprise me. He probably has a conversation here and there, maybe with Daquan Wright, maybe with the legal representative, maybe with LSU's legal team. But, I don't think they're spending a lot of time on this because there's not anything LSU can really do. If the player's eligible and the conference says it's okay, all right, bring him in. That was the case Friday. The conference had said, we don't really want you to do that, but there weren't any penalties in place. And the injunction declared, hey, you're eligible. Okay, well then go recruit them. And if they say they want to come, fine. But at this point, if the SEC says these are the punishments and those can hold up, let the legal team go nuts over there. If they're trying to get those guys back into college athletics, that's not any sweat off LSU's back. Go watch Clemson tape. I don't think LSU's spending an inordinate amount of time on this. Now, it could be a distraction if they do get on the team and you have to spend time coaching them up and getting them into the system and taking reps away from somebody. And if the scenario comes up that people have brought to me where if you bring those guys in, you do have to cut two people. But I don't know that to be true. One, the guys aren't here. They're not practicing. And two, nobody's been cut. So right now, I don't have that to react to. I only have what's public. I don't think LSU's spending a lot of time on this unless they're grossly misappropriating their time and doing something that they can't impact. Finally, my take on this. Nobody wants LSU to win more than me. Nobody. I want LSU to win so badly, and I'm going to get in that stadium a week from Saturday and just my heart will be beating 1,000 beats a minute. If this is the moment in time that affects a little bit of change and keeps things between the buoys and creates some real eligibility parameters that need to be adhered to after 6 years of absolute and complete chaos, where sore tonsils get you an extra year and COVID gets you an extra year and this coach got fired so you get an extra year, and now all of a sudden we got guys playing 7th years and 6th years and transferring 6 times and coming back from professional ranks, and he was in a mini camp, he wasn't in an actual training camp, so if we can get some things put on the books, that's going to be fine with me. This is not a Heisman Trophy quarterback they're taking out of LSU's huddle. This is a guy who hasn't been with the team literally ever that may not be able to join. And guess what? We'll all get along with it. Does Lane Kiffin think these guys can help? Obviously. He's said that on the record. Would the team be a little bit better? Perhaps. Did he complete a roster in January and go through spring workouts and get guys in the summer and get to work in fall camp? Yeah. They've got a roster. Most people think it's a top 15 team in the country. I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep over Daquan Wright and Xavier Harris. Those two guys probably are, because there's a lot of money on the table. In the big grand scheme, if this doesn't go LSU's way, it'd be just fine with me. You may disagree. You may put your purple and gold on and say, screw these guys, they're trying to mess with LSU. These guys should be legal, and you may think that. I just don't line up. I see their case. I understand where they're coming from. I understand why a judge would side with them. If the commissioner of the SEC, the commissioner of the Big Ten, the commissioner of the ACC, the Notre Dame president, and the commissioner of the Big 12 say, hey, we're all coming together, these guys are not coming back through that door. Okay, fine. Let's go play some football. Because I've almost had it. I won't think about it at all when I get inside Tiger Stadium a week from Saturday. Not me. That's a personal thing. But right now, it's dominating the storylines, and I'd really rather talk about some ball. Let's talk some recruiting. We'll do it with Sam Spiegelman next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. They're online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. Look, y'all, August is almost over. It's almost over. So if you're looking for a new truck, now's the time to get up Highway 61 in St. Francisville and go see my friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. 2026 Chevy Silverado 1500s, 0% APR financing for 5 years plus no monthly payments for 90 days. That's until August 31st. That's 5 days. Get on by and see them. 2026 GMC Sierras, gorgeous truck. 2.9 APR financing for 72 months plus an additional $1,500 off and for your allowance. That's now until you got it, August 31st. If you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, They've got a pre-owned vehicle to match every budget at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Go check out the entire inventory at FabryChevrolet.com. Go see him in San Francisco on Highway 61. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday show is always brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're built by Renaissance.com, built by Renaissance.com. Let's talk some recruiting. About to be a busy fall full of football games, visits, commitments, and it'll culminate with National Signing Day coming up in December. Talking about all of it is our guy from Rivals, Sam Spiegelman, national recruiting analyst, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sam, thanks for the time. How are you?
Of course. Happy to be here, hon. How's everything going?
Everything's okay. Look, we're talking a lot about courtrooms and stuff instead of football, and it's annoying me to an extent, but we're not going to do that here. We're going to talk about some preps and their whereabouts. One that we need to talk about off the top is Jalen Brewster, who's made a little bit of a move here, transferring high schools. What does it mean, if anything?
I think this is going to lock in the fact that Jalen Brewster, who considered trying to enroll early at a couple of these colleges he's considering, this is going to assure him that he will be graduated in the month of December, and he will be playing on Saturdays or beginning the preps to play on Saturdays this spring. He'll be enrolled wherever he finalizes his plans. In January, he'll start his classes. He'll be in the weight room. That's basically the norm for these elite of the elite prospects, is graduate early, get on campus in the spring, and try to earn a spot, whether it's starting or of course, in Jalen Brewster's case, in the defensive line rotation. And at Buford, he has that locked in. He should be officially enrolled. I don't know if he's announced it or Buford has, but he is on campus at Buford High School as of this Wednesday, and that is where he will graduate in 4 short months.
All right. Does LSU still have a fighting chance in that recruitment, and how wild do you think this fall could be? He's been committed to Texas Tech for a while.
At this point, I'm expecting Jalen Brewster to shut his recruitment down. Of course, in the world that we live in, where NIL is a massive factor for a lot of these upper echelon prospects, I can never say that the door is officially closed for LSU and Jalen Brewster because, listen, if you look at the schools that have tried to make a move in the Jalen Brewster sweepstakes, there is Texas, Ohio State, Texas A&M, SMU, the defending national champs, Indiana, Florida, and ultimately LSU was the team that pushed this as far as it went. Hunt, when we spoke, a month or two ago, there was a point where LSU was probably in thinking that they were going to get this flip done based on the conversations that they had with Brewster and his camp. As his official senior year is now underway, this is very much trending toward the Red Raiders. I think that they are going to lock this in. This is not anything that LSU did wrong. I think it was too much of a hurdle for them to overcome at this stage in the process. You'll have to remember, Jalen committed to Texas Tech in the middle of his junior season. We know that Texas Tech has fantastic NIL ability. Not only do they have outstanding offers for the young man, but they have the coaching staff has recruited the heck out of him, his family. They have fantastic relationships with his representation. Every time a school like LSU or you name it has come close, Texas Tech has been extremely aggressive at slowing down the opposing team's momentum and keeping Brewster on board. And as this decision weighs in the next couple of days or as early as today, I do expect Jalen Brewster to ultimately stick with the Red Raiders.
Let's talk about some guys whose dads I watched play at LSU. One is a 5-star wide receiver in Jalen Adai. It doesn't take a lot for LSU fans to trace that name back pretty quickly to his dad, Joseph. What can you tell us about Jalen?
Yeah, Jalen, he's a 5-star wide receiver, and he's a top prospect in Texas. More specifically, he plays for Shadow Creek High School, which if you're an LSU fan or an LSU recruiting fan, that high school probably rings a bell because LSU has either signed or had commitments from so many really talented prospects from Shadow Creek High School over the years. And this particular year, the Shadow Creek Sharks have not only 5-star wide receiver Jalen Adai, but 2029 athlete BJ LaFell, which should also ring some bells over here in the LSU area. Listen, LSU is one of the favorites to keep Adai's NFL bloodlines, his LSU bloodlines alive. He still has family in South Louisiana. And of course, when your dad is Joseph Adai, you spent a lot of Saturdays in Death Valley before. Now, Jalen is expected, he does not have a date set yet, but is expected to be in Tiger Stadium this fall. George McDonald offered him in the spring along with his teammate BJ LaFell, and they have kept continuing to gain momentum in this recruitment leading into his junior year. You're going to love to hear this, but Coach O in particular has probably been the lead on Jalen Adai. We know that no one knows about keeping family legacies alive better than Coach Ed Orgeron. Listen, LSU is going to have to go up against some stiff competition. This is the number one prospect in Texas, one of the best players in the 2028 class. I think Notre Dame and Miami are off to a really good start with Jalen Adai, but LSU can never be discounted. LSU is probably going to always sign at least 3 or maybe 4 receivers each year under Lane Kiffin and George McDonald. That's what they're aiming to do in 2027. We know that they're hoping to sign at least one more 5-star wide receiver before the end of this year, and they're going to look for 4 next year, and they have some talent in the state, and they also have their eyes on the legacy prospect Jalen Adai. We'll see how this visit to LSU goes this fall.
20 years and about 25 pounds ago, Joe LaFell scored the first touchdown when I was in the student section at LSU against Louisiana Lafayette. It's been a minute, but now his kiddo is on the radar for LSU. Another legacy, Carter St. Junius, 4-star wide receiver, whose dad's been working at LSU for the last decade.
Yeah, LSU started to get involved with Carter also this spring. Obviously, when the coaches were on the road, they're very intentional and specific about where they went. And I think if Carter St. Junius had to make a decision today, and he certainly doesn't hunt, I think it would be hard to beat LSU right now. They have a ton of momentum in this recruitment. This is a kid who was originally born in Louisiana, and I think would dream of playing college football Saturdays back in Baton Rouge. Of course, there is also stiff competition for Carter St. Junius. He is a Rivals 300 wide receiver from the state of Texas and in Houston. So schools like SMU and Texas Tech and Texas A&M are fiercely in this recruitment. Schools like Nebraska are involved and others, Arizona State. So it's still early for Carter, but LSU has been circled on his list of visits for several weeks. This has been in the works for a while. And like I mentioned before, they have continued to kick up the attention on Carter St. Junius throughout the summer. After they saw him work out, they fell in love with this kid. He's a multi-sport athlete. He's 6'3", almost 200 pounds. It's going to be on this LSU coaching staff to decide where they go out of state, with obviously 2 blue chip legacy prospects in the Houston area, and of course, plenty of talent in state at that same position at their disposal.
Carter St. Junior's dad, Tasman Mitchell, of course, who played basketball on a Final Four team, another SEC championship team, and has been on the staff for 2 different coaches on the hardwood here in Baton Rouge. This is more of a big picture question as opposed to individual. You can dive into individuals if they come to mind, but a lot of LSU fans looking at the offensive line and want to make sure that position is fortified, being that it kind of withered away under the last staff. I know that LSU's got Eric Wolford and James Craig, 2 really established SEC line coaches on staff. How have you seen that group start to go out and sink their teeth on the recruiting front?
Yeah, James Craig has been there in Baton Rouge. He was a part of, probably most famously, he landed Cardell Thomas back when Cardell Thomas was a 5-star coming out of Southern Lab. And James Craig has a fantastic reputation, not only for that year at LSU or those years at LSU, but his time in the NFL. And Coach Wolford, who used to coach at Alabama, also in Kentucky and across the SEC, he's a name that's getting a lot of buzz with some of the best offensive linemen in the country. This 2027 class, they got a late start and were able to they have to go out of state for offensive linemen in this 2027 class, but they're in the mix for some of the best offensive linemen in the country for 2028. And of course, they're going to go to the portal to restock in the offseason. This is LSU started to turn a corner when their offensive line play started to turn a corner a couple of years ago. And that's going to be the driving force of Lane Kiffin's offense, of course. And under Billy Glasscock, their general manager, they are going to find ready-to-go offensive linemen, as we saw this year, and in particular with Jordan Seaton. And if Jordan Seaton has the year that he's expected to, it's going to, of course, catch the attention of all these blue chip offensive tackles around the country that want to see what this LSU offense looks like in a couple of days. I think Eric Wolford is starting to generate a lot of buzz amongst the high school coaches in Louisiana and of course the prospects. As I mentioned with Jalen Adai and Carter St. Junius, of course, Eric Wolford spent a lot of time in schools here in Louisiana, but he's also been on the road in Texas. He's also recruiting some of the best offensive linemen in Georgia and across the Southeast, and that's a great foundation to lean on when you're coaching at LSU and you don't have just Louisiana to lean on for offensive line, a premium position.
It's refreshing to have a more traditional conversation this time of year with a little recruiting and a little bit of football instead of temporary restraining orders. So I appreciate you coming on and doing it. Sam Spiegelman, National Recruiting Analyst with Rivals. We'll catch up again soon, okay?
Talk to you soon, Hunt.
That is Sam Spiegelman. Always appreciate his insights. Jalen Adai, B.J. LaFell. Some legacies, and then Carter St. Junius, obviously Taz and Mitchell's son there. So a lot of guys that are around my age. They're a little bit older than me, but not a lot older than me. A little bit older than me that have kiddos now that are being recruited by the Tigers. No word right now whether or not Keller Palmer is being recruited by LSU. He was seen yesterday in daycare painting, kind of. He was holding a paintbrush, and it was touching the paper. So I don't know if that's going to catch any coaches' attention, but he can't really do anything else. Walk a little bit, but he falls down a lot. So I don't think that's a guy they're interested in quite yet. But a lot of my contemporaries at LSU have kiddos already making waves. And Adai and LaFell, very, very familiar names down here in Baton Rouge. What If Wednesday? We'll get to that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com. It's not just roofs at Lifetime Roofing. They're happy to come in and inspect your roof, to do a repair on your roof, to get you a new roof. Like, absolutely, it's Lifetime Roofing. But they also do professional installation of gutters. They do professional installation of siding. They do professional installation of windows. So whatever it is on the exterior of your home, whether you've had some damage or you just want to freshen things up, or maybe it's about time to put your home on the market, a move's coming up, and you want to make sure it's looking the best that it possibly can, Lifetime Roofing is happy to help you out with all of that. They've got financing options very much available, 0% for 18 months when you go with Lifetime Roofing. Again, replacements, repairs, tune-ups, whatever your need may be. And if you don't know what your need is, well, let Lifetime Roofing come out and survey the situation. They'll let you know what the best option is for you. It's a Baton Rouge-based company, Louisiana roots, growing team, phenomenal facility just off College Drive. Check them out online at lifetimeroofingla.com. It's Lifetime Roofing. They're online at lifetimeroofingla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Every Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by our friends over at Auctioner. I know a lot of folks looking to make sure their kiddos are ready for this school year, both academically and athletically. Many Auctioner Health Centers offer both primary care and pediatric services in one location, which makes it easier for families to coordinate care for everyone in the household. If you're looking for a same-day appointment, that availability is at many locations and can help families address unexpected health concerns quickly as children return to school and activities. Extended afternoon hours after school, as well as weekend appointments and selection locations, provide added flexibility for busy families balancing school, work, and extracurricular schedules. That's all courtesy of our friends over at Auctioner. If you need more tips on helping your family start the school year healthy, safe, and ready to succeed, visit auctioner.org/BR. We'll get to What If Wednesday in a second. Adam Schefter with an interesting report says the NFL will provide clarity to clubs later today regarding league rules governing player eligibility. And this is, of course, in reaction to these released and waived cut players that are potentially going to come back to college. It says a player that goes back to college this season will be prohibited from signing with an NFL team this year. So if a player comes back to LSU, comes back to Texas, comes back to UCLA, wherever these things are potentially happening, that player cannot go back to the NFL. Also, a player signed to an NFL contract who is subsequently cut is a free agent, obviously. He may sign with another NFL club, may sign with the CFL. He may return to college, Schefter reports. But a player that player is considered a free agent and will not be subject to a future draft. So the thought that some of these guys could come back and then ramp things up and become a second or first round pick that would make them more of a priority for an NFL team. Not the case. So it appears to me that they're shutting the door on this, which is fine. I'm completely fine with that. But if they shut it from both sides, saying, hey, the colleges, if they take you back, they may face steep penalties according to the conferences. And oh, by the way, if you do go back, and then you're going to have to sign as an undrafted free agent again. So why not just do that now while you're not hurt? I understand the financial component of going back to college, so maybe it makes sense for some guys that feel like that's their best chance with some earning power in their football life. Just a decision those guys are going to have to make, but feels like the tides are swinging towards guys not entering the college scene once again. That's my sense of it, but we'll see as more information comes available. It's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, so what if LSU didn't give out number 7 next season?
Be fine with me. I mean, I think it's cool. If the players think it's cool, I think it's cool. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I've written about it a little bit just as content in the summer for our site. It generates some reaction from some people. Some people think it's silly. Some people think it's cool. That we did the whole number thing with Jaden 2 weeks ago. It's a number. And obviously some numbers are attached to players, whether they've been retired or not. But there have been a lot of great players at LSU that have worn 3, that have worn 7, that have worn, the same number. A lot of 5s that have been really good.
A lot of 1s.
So, a lot of 1s. So, if they didn't give out 7 next year, I wouldn't be offended. But if somebody gets 7 and thinks it's a great honor, great. I think that's awesome. We'll talk about it in the next segment.
Now, that's crazy that the Jaden Daniel thing happened a couple weeks ago. LSU just in the headlines every single day. Oh, my goodness. So this is from Twitter. What if NIL and COVID never happened? What would college sports look like today?
Very similar to the way they did before COVID. Now, COVID would have given everybody an extra year.
Yeah.
So you would have had a lot of 5th-year players, and with red shirts, probably 6th-year players. But the impetus for all this change is money. There's some change that is in the conference level because of money. But the change in terms of all this litigation is for money.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get paid to play college football, nobody's going to be scrapping and fighting and clawing through the legal system to get back to it. There's no reason to. You go try to get money doing it with the NFL.
Yeah.
You go try to get money in the NBA. So when you started paying exorbitant amounts of money to student athletes, that opened the door for litigation that kicked all this down. Whether you think the players should absolutely be compensated, or you think that a scholarship was fine for 5 decades and is fine now, doesn't matter what side you're on that debate. You cannot debate why all this is happening, and it is the money. So that's if you never introduced name, image, and likeness payments to being legitimized, you would not have all these legal issues for eligibility, because guys, they would just move on.
All right, to kind of add on to that, do you think that there would have been like realignment if none of this COVID
because
and none of that
that's money too. And you always follow the money. This is the kids chasing the money. That was the universities chasing the money. You're chasing money.
All right, so what if LSU flops this year and goes like 6-6?
I will say, man, that was a massively wasted investment. And they'll probably be pretty good next year, because Lane Kiffin will be back, and Charlie Weiss will probably be back, and Blake Baker will probably be back. And then they just go back into the portal, and they'd probably get a really good team. Like, I do not believe that 1 year is defining in this era where you can turn the roster over so significantly. If you go back to 15 years ago, if you hit a point where you ran out of steam, it was hard to get it back, because these are the guys you got. Like, you better hope that they either get a lot better, or your freshman class was really good on a crappy team, and now they're sophomores and they're really good. Well, now you just go get a bunch of juniors and seniors and try it again next year. So, like, there's nothing that could happen this year. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's absolutist. But, like, there's very little that would indicate to me this year that Lane Kiffin can't win football games in the SEC. He just did it for 5 years at Ole Miss. He won 50 games. So if they go 6-6 this year, it's a tough schedule. Maybe, you got a couple injuries,
You had to be
lose
dangerous.
2 overtime games. Like, I don't think they're going 6-6. And I guess we'll cross that bridge if we were to get to it, but we're playing what if right now. It would just tell to me, well, these boosters spent a crap ton of money and it didn't work. Hopefully they've got some for the next team.
Yeah. So what if LSU offensive line turns out to be the best unit in the SEC next year?
If you got the best unit in the SEC this year,
Yeah, well, this year.
you're talking about a ground game that punishes people.
Yep.
And a lot of time for Sam Levitt to throw it to a lot of guys that run pretty good and Trades Green. Like they're gonna lead the SEC in scoring. If they've got the best offensive line in the SEC, which by any definition would suggest that they're running the ball effectively and often, and the quarterback's not getting pressured a lot, they're gonna light it up. They will. I mean, Levitt had an advantageous opportunity 2 years ago when he had Scadaboo running for 1,700 yards and a first-round wide receiver out there for most of the year in Tyson, and that was lesser defenses he was playing against, but they won a lot of games and he produced a lot of yardage. LSU will be a playoff team if they have the best offensive line in the SEC.
Oh, they're not going 6-6. Whoever wrote that 6-6 one, that's not happening. So what if Bryce Underwood never flipped to Michigan?
I don't think it would have mattered.
Okay, I like this angle.
Because he was not great last year.
He wasn't.
And if you were to put him behind that offensive line with that scheme, well, they're not going to run the ball worth the flip. They're not going to try to run the ball. You're going to have a young quarterback back there with no offensive line. They're banged up, hurt. You can't run the ball. And you're throwing a bunch of screen passes. Like, they're going to lose a bunch of games, and Brian Kelly's going to get fired. And then he probably leaves anyway.
Transfers, yeah.
So it was a deal where we all were up in arms about it because you felt like it was potentially a program-altering thing. And Bryce Underwood may eventually be good, but if he would have been the starting quarterback last year, then you have the same situation. If he was Garrett Nussmeier's backup last year, then he would have been thrust into playing time, and it would have been a bad situation. You would have lost games. I just don't see how that would have changed things because I saw him play last year on a bad team, and it was bad. So it would have been bad last year on that bad team, and everyone would have gotten fired, and he probably transfers. So I think you're right back in square one. I think he got Lane Kiffin. I think he got Sam Levitt. I don't think he got Bryce Underwood. It was a big deal that day, but it ultimately didn't really change the course of anything because that coaching staff ended up getting fired.
Yeah, pretty much because, again, it was a bad team. It wasn't like LSU was a good team, and he came in here was going to change something.
Or that he was some, unbelievable freshman that threw for 3,600 yards and 35 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And, you would have had him. Well, you could have changed the offense. Like, no, he didn't do a lot.
So that's it for What If Wednesday.
All right, that's it for What If Wednesday. LSU has named its new number 18, has named its new number 7s, plural. We'll talk about them next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com. That's swingeasygcbr.com. Great place to work on your golf game. You might be scratch. It's a great place to work on your golf game if you're a scratch player. You can get in there in a controlled environment. You can see what your club head speed is. You can see what your spin rate is. You can see what the trajectory of your shots. You can see where your club face impacts the golf ball. You can see your carry distance and the trajectory, all that. And it's really helpful. And if you're a beginner, you may not need to know what your club head speed is, but you might need to look at where the ball's going. You might need to play in a controlled environment that doesn't have dead grass somewhere, or the wind blowing, or it rained really hard yesterday, so it's really soggy out there. The golf balls are no good. That's not the case at Swing Easy. You're in a controlled spot. So maybe you don't want all the data, but you just want a controlled environment to play. No matter if you're scratch or a beginner, it's a great place to work on your golf game at Swing Easy Golf Club. They're on Segan at Perkins. Stop on by and just see the facility. Check it out one time. You'll be driving by, go, I've heard talk about that. Let me go see. Go see. You'll be impressed. Swing Easy Golf Club on Segan at Perkins or online. swingeasygcbr.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
GoTro's Outdoor Power. They're online at GoTrosOnline.com. GoTrosOnline.com. That end of summer clearance sale is coming to an end, so get on by. 2 locations, GoTro's Outdoor Power, one on Airline in Baton Rouge, one in Gonzales. That summer clearance sale up to $1,000 off select Gravely, Skag, and Hustler zero-turn mowers, 0% financing available as well. Again, that's up to $1,000 off select Gravely, Skag, and Hustler zero-turn mowers. 0% financing available as well. If you got to maintain that property, want to cut your lawn, need a zero-turn mower, there's nowhere else to go besides Gotros Outdoor Power. They've been in business for 22 years here in Baton Rouge and Gonzales. Gotro family is first class, and they will give you that personal touch that the big box store just can't, whether it's delivering your equipment on a trailer, whether it's the parts delivery. They got the biggest parts inventory in the state. Go by and see them. Airline Highway in Baton Rouge or in Gonzales, or online at gotrosonline.com. All right, LSU announced earlier today number 18 and 2 number 7s for this season. If you missed it, Braylon Moore, LSU senior center, is going to wear the number 18 patch this year. He'll, of course, have to wear his number 61 as an offensive lineman. Second offensive lineman ever to wear the number 18. Lloyd Cushenberry did on the 2019 National Championship team. So that's a nice bit of synergy there. Last time you had an offensive lineman, it was a center. Your team was pretty good, as I recall, in 2019. But Braylon Moore has been a great representative of LSU and has been great every time we've spoken with him. Came in after a couple seasons starting at Virginia Tech, earned the starting job last year for LSU. Played really well even through injury. He got hurt in the first snap of the second game of the season against Louisiana Tech. Also had a second injury later on in the season, but played very well when given the opportunity. Had a chance to go play in the NFL this past year, decided to stay back at LSU and anchor an offensive line. And I said this a few times. I think it's a very good thing for LSU to have such a mature player in the middle of this offensive line, to have such a leader in the middle of this offensive line, because we know that LSU wants to go really fast. And so you don't want to have a center that's new, that's unsure of himself when you're trying to move that tempo really quickly when your offense kind of gets something going. You want a guy that's been there. He's a 3-year starter in the Power 4 leagues, and that understands protections, that understands the offense, and can process things quickly to get things moving. So I think Braylon Moore makes a lot of sense to number 18. A lot of folks thought it would be Bo Bordelon. A lot of folks thought it would be Whit Weeks. Braylon Moore is the only recipient of number 18 this year. He'll wear the patch while he wears number 61 on his actual uniform. Number 7 was announced just about an hour later after 18 was announced. 2 guys we talked to at SEC Media Days in Tampa back in July, Trey'Dez Green and Whit Weeks. Whit Weeks is now a 4th-year player at LSU and 2 years removed from being an all-SEC player, second in the SEC with 124 tackles. That year was 9th nationally, the 8th most tackles in the history of LSU in a single season for Whit Weeks a couple of years ago. And as you know, just couldn't stay on the field last year. Was hobbled for 3 or 4 games, missed 5 games last year, but he comes back unexpectedly, in my opinion, to anchor LSU's defense once again, and is a heck of a playmaker. And they throw number 7 on him, which I think is a great honor. Matt Moscona asked Whit Weeks if he would wear number 18 back in media days, and Whit said it would be a great honor, but like he kind of thought that maybe Bo Bordelon deserved that honor, and he kind of liked 40, but they said, hey, you want to wear 7? And Whit Weeks was quick to put that number on as a playmaker on the defensive side of the football, and LSU certainly hopes that he is making plays and then also getting up the field and making plays in the backfield as well. Trey'Dez Green, that's a playmaker. If you're talking about number 7 being there for playmakers, Trey'Dez Green is certainly that. He has already set the LSU tight end receiving record for touchdowns last year. Set for career last year, set the single season record for touchdowns as a tight end. Was just unguardable. It started in the Clemson game last year. I was doing a Clemson radio hit about 2 weeks ago, and I said the name Trey'Dez Green, and they're like, oh, I don't want to hear that, because obviously it was a low-scoring game. The first touchdown LSU scored, Trey'Dez set up by drawing a pass interference call on a jump ball, and then the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter was another jump ball to Trey'Dez Green, and they just never really stopped going to that play. They had very little success doing anything against Texas A&M for the majority of that game, and they did score a big touchdown to Trey'Dez on the jump ball. He's as dynamic a playmaker as LSU has on that roster. So for him to get that number is an awesome thing. Those 2 guys are good friends. Those 2 guys were fantastic representatives of LSU in Tampa at SEC Media Days, and they're really good players. And that's not a guy that you're betting on to come here. Whit Weeks has done it as an All-American. Trey'Dez Green has done it as an All-Conference player, and both guys have gotten a lot of preseason recognition this year, and for a good reason. They're 2 of the best players in the Southeastern Conference at their respective positions. So Whit Weeks will wear number 40, and Whit Weeks will wear number 7. Trey'Dez Green will wear number 7, and Braylon Moore will wear number 18 for LSU. Some guys that have been in this program now through a coaching change, that decided to come back, that had options to go and either move on to the NFL or get lucrative deals on the open market in quote-unquote free agency in the transfer portal, and decided to stay at LSU when they didn't have to do that. And so that's a great representation of the school, and an awesome honor for those guys who are going to be huge parts of what the Tigers are going to do on both sides of the ball this year. Braylon Moore is going to anchor an offensive line that's got to get a ground game going. Trey'Dez Green is really your number one pass-catching option for LSU this year, and Whit Weeks has a chance to be among the most productive tacklers in the SEC. He's going to have to compete with TJ Daugherty and Devon Keys to make those tackles, and those guys are going to make a ton, and so is Ty Benefield. But Whit Weeks will be around and make a ton of tackles, and it's great to be out at practice. Honestly, we're not anymore, but it was great to be at practice this fall camp and to see Whit Weeks at full speed going through the drills, sparking at his guys. It was tough to see him in the spring standing there in flip-flops and watching guys. He's meant to be out on the field, and he will be. So for LSU, 118, Braylon Moore, 2 7s, Whit Weeks, and Trey'Dez Green. So that's your number assignments for this year beyond the retirement assignments, which we got 2 weeks ago. Never a dull moment around here in Baton Rouge, is there? I guess that's what keeps us in business. I guess. Our Wednesday shows are brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're at line at builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com. Look, if you're looking for the pool of your dreams, contact Joey Blanchard. Always tell you the best way to get to Joey is just shoot him a text, 225-252-7745. That's 225-252-7745. Say, Joey, we're back in school. Missed this summer. It was a scorcher. Wish I had that pool of my dreams. Let's get it ready for next summer. You can do it at Renaissance Homes and Pools. If you don't text Joey, just reach out at builtbyrenaissance.com. I appreciate Sam Spiegelman talking some recruiting. If you want that, you can find it on demand at Hunt on LSU. Also talked a little bit about the ongoing court cases, as we are prone to do. We'll take a time out. We'll pause for national headlines. We'll hear some sound from Kellen Moore, and we'll talk some college football with J.D. Piquel in 35 minutes. Wednesday edition, Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You may have been thinking for months, maybe for years, about remodeling that bathroom, whether it's upstairs that you don't use or a guest room tucked away that doesn't get the use that it once did, or maybe it was a kiddo's room that's moved out of the house. And you're thinking, well, we're having a family gathering for Thanksgiving. We're having a family gathering for Christmas. It's probably time to make sure that that bathroom's up to date, that it's functional, that it looks nice, and it's ready for holidays when we host a lot of people. Well, now's the time to think about that. Don't think about that after Halloween and try to rush that job through to get it ready for that family gathering for Thanksgiving. Call David Duvall at One Bath and Closets, or check him out online at onebathandclosets.com and get that process started with that free consultation, the discussion with David, to see what they can do for you in that bathroom. It's David Duvall, One Bath and Closets. You can find him online at onebathandclosets.com.